بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Tonight we're going to start Bab Sifat al-Salah, being as though it's the month of Ramadan, and inshallah everybody is praying more than usual. Inshallah we're standing at night praying extra this month. So we want to read through the chapter of the description of the prayer of the Prophet ﷺ from the same book that we read through for Kitab al-Siyam, Umdah At-Taalib. The same book that we did for the chapter of fasting before Ramadan came in, Umdah At-Taalib, by Imam Mansur ibn Yunus al-Buhuti, rahimahullah ta'ala. So, the beginning of the book, or the beginning of the chapter, it starts off discussing some things that are recommended for the salah. Things that are recommended for the salah. Now, what we hear tonight doesn't mean that it's not another way to do things. Okay? Doesn't mean that it's not another way to do things, but the description here given is the description that is considered most authentic to the author himself, rahimahullah. طيب. Firstly, السنة خروج إليها بسكينة ووقار ويقارب خطاه. That when we come to the salah, the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that we come relaxed and that we're not in a rush and that we are, as he says, we don't take long strides, but to take short steps, to take shorter steps than usual. Why is that? Because there's another hadith that mentions that every step you take towards the salat, that sins fall off. That sins fall off based on every step a person takes going to the prayer. So if a person were to take more steps, then more sins are to fall off of that person. طيب وإذا دخل المسجد قدم رجله يمنى. When entering to the masjid, and this is a principle, a qaida that goes, here we're talking about for the salah, so it says masjid specifically, but it's used for places other than the masjid. But we'll just leave it here for the masjid for now. When you enter the masjid, to come into the masjid with your right foot first. To step into the masjid with your right foot first. وَلْيُسْرَى إِذَا خَرَجْ. And when we leave out of the masjid, to leave with your left foot first. To leave with the left foot going out and to enter the masjid with the right foot coming in. And this is also the case when we go into our homes. That we enter the home with the right foot and that we leave the home with the left foot. طيب ويقول بسم الله. When entering the masjid, there's a dua. There's a dua, and if we don't know these adiyah, these du'as, they are in that small book, Fortress of the Muslim. If we haven't memorized them, then inshallah we can use this month to try to memorize some of these du'as. There's a dua when you enter the masjid, and there's a dua when you leave the masjid. So he says, وَيَقُولُ, and this is when coming in, Bismillah, والسلام على رسول الله اللهم اغفر لي ذنوبي وافتح لي أبواب رحمتك. That we say Bismillah, we send salam on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then we ask Allah to forgive us for our sins and to open His door of mercy for us when we come into the masjid. So now we have adab, the etiquette of going to the masjid. We don't just walk in here like we walking into a corner store, loud, talking about anything. That we enter with the right foot first, and then we say the dua, the prayer for entering the masjid. طيب, it says, وَيَقُولُ إِذَا خَرَجْ. And then when we leave, it's the same situation. There's a dua for when we leave any masjid. Not a specific masjid, any masjid that we go to. These dua, these prayers, these dua apply. If we leave, يقول أبواب فضلك. That we say the same dua in the beginning, Bismillah, send salam on the Prophet ﷺ, and then we ask Allah to open up the doors of His virtue, to send His virtue and blessings on us. طيب. It says, وَلَا يَخُوضُ فِي حَدِيثِ الدُّنْيا. When inside of the masjid, that we should stay away from talking about affairs of the dunya, of the worldly life. وَيَجْلِسْ مُسْتَقْبِلَ الْقِبْلَةِ. And that when we sit, we should sit in the masjid facing the qibla. Everybody know what the qibla is. Who doesn't know what the qibla is? Anybody don't know what the qibla is? Everybody knows qibla? The qibla is the direction of the prayer. Whichever way we pray, whichever masjid you go into, whatever is the direction of the prayer, that we should sit facing the direction of the prayer. طيب. He says, يسن قيام إمام فمأموم رآه عند قول إقامة الصلاة وتسوية الصف وقربه من إمام. So he mentions three things here that he says are recommended or sunnah. The first thing is if we're standing or the adhan has been called and now we're waiting for the iqamah. When do the people stand? When should we stand up? You with me? After the adhan is called and we wait, and now we're waiting for the salat to come in, or we're waiting for the actual iqamah. When do we stand? When should the people stand? He says the sunnah is to stand when they see the imam. If this was the imam, the sunnah is to stand when you see the imam come for the salat. طيب. Or, as he says, قَدْ قَامَتِ الصَّلَاةِ. Because not all of the scholars agree on this issue, when to stand. And it's not about the permissibility of standing. What's the best time to stand? We got to stand regardless because it's time to pray. But when should we stand? When we see the imam come? Or when the mu'adhin, should we stay sitting like this until the one calling the iqamah says, قَدْ قَامَتِ الصَّلَاةِ. Right? The author says, in the qawl, قَدْ قَامَتِ الصَّلَاةِ. When he says قَدْ قَامَتِ الصَّلَاةِ, that is sunnah to stand. طيب. Is everybody with me? Now some argue on this, if we should stand based on the hadith. Some don't see the hadith to be authentic. So there's a disagreement in this issue about when to stand. When is the best time to stand? We know we got to stand because we got to pray. But what's the best time to stand? The scholars of Islam have debated that issue. When is the best time to stand? As he says, قِيَامُ مَأْمُومٍ رَعَاهُ أي رَعَى مَأْمُومٍ الْإِمَامِ. They see the imam, they stand. Or when the person says, قَدْ قَامَتِ الصَّلَاةِ. طيب. The next sunnah that he mentions, he mentions three things. Firstly, تَسْوِيَةُ الصَّفْ. Straightening of the line. Straightening of the line. Hukmuhu. The ruling, he says, sunnah. The sunnah is to straighten the line. Straighten the ranks. Now, again, some have argued that it's obligatory to straighten the lines. But there are different hadith. Some prove that it's recommended to straighten the line, and others, scholars use to prove that it's obligatory to straighten the line. Therefore, they differ. Either way, even if we say something is not obligatory, even if we took the lesser of the rulings, that it's not, if you said it's sunnah, because something is sunnah it doesn't mean that we don't do it. Right? It doesn't mean that we say, oh, that's only sunnah, so I don't have to do that. Right? We should want to do everything that the Prophet ﷺ commanded us to do. Whether it's recommended to do it, or it's obligatory to do it. If it's obligatory to do it, then that's one situation. And if it's recommended, we should still have the urge and the desire to follow, just like Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu used to do. He would try to, the son of Umar ibn al-Khattab, he would try to walk and put his foot in the same place that the Prophet ﷺ placed his foot. If he left a footprint, he wanted to put his foot in that footprint. This is how we should be. Not that that's only sunnah, I don't have to do that. We don't really got to do that because that's just sunnah. There's no such thing as just sunnah, not to the sunni. Ahl sunnah, there's no such thing as just sunnah. It's not just sunnah, it's the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So even if the ulama differ on if it's obligatory to straighten the rank or if it's recommended to straighten the rank or sunnah to straighten the rank, we want to straighten the rank. Because the other hadith says that if you don't straighten the rank, then Allah will cause your hearts to differ. Right? And it's a whole issue. We're just going off the author. The author's position, taswiyatul saf. Taswiyatul saf. Now the next question is, how should the ranks be straightened? Because brothers, Islam doesn't allow us to harm one another. You can't be trying to close the gap and you standing on somebody's foot. You're harming the brother next to you or the sister next to you so that they can't concentrate throughout the salah. La yajuz. It's not permissible to harm Muslims, not in the salah or outside of the salah. Tayyib. So he says, bimankabin wa ka'b, that the ranks are supposed to be straightened based on the shoulder and the ankles, the back of the foot, not the toes. Most people line up with toes. If my toes match your toes, then, but it's supposed to be based on the back of our heels. The line is based on the back of the heels. Now we all got different sized feet, so that's not the issue. The issue is the back of the heel. To the best of your ability, not harming the person next to you. You can't harm the person next to you. It's not permissible to harm another Muslim, right? You can't harm another person trying to practice a sunnah. You can't harm somebody trying to do something that's recommended to do. Clear? Even if something is obligatory to do. Harm doesn't take precedence over doing the obligation in all cases. Here in the salah, you don't harm the person next to you in order to straighten the rank. We want to straighten the rank to the best of our ability and to follow the sunnah of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. You can't step on and stand on a brother's foot because he's not closing the gap enough. I know brothers, they got back problems. If you stand on their foot, it sets off a nerve in their back. It goes right up their leg to their back. Now their whole salat, you jamming your foot on their, right? Because sunnah is the what? Close the gap, straighten the rank, straighten the rank, straighten the rank. But the brother next to you has a problem, or the sister next to you has a problem. So now you disturb their whole khushu', and it's not our job to monitor what the person is doing next to us. We straighten the rank to the best of our ability. The imam says what he says. If he designates somebody to straighten the rank, then they straighten the rank. It's not for everybody in the row. Everybody in the row want to straighten the rank. That's not everybody's job. Our job is to make sure that we're straight. It says, straightening the rank based on the shoulder, making sure the line is straight with shoulders and the ka'b, the ankle bone, which is towards the back. فَيَلْتَفِتُ يَمِينًا. Then the imam turns to the right and he turns to the left. And he says, Astaw rahimakumullah. Straighten the ranks, may Allah have mercy on you. He turns to the right or turns to the left. There's many different things that the Prophet ﷺ will say when he would say that. طيب ويكمل الأول فالأول ويتراصون. And the first rank is to be filled first. Fill the first rank behind the imam, and then the next rank, and then the next rank. So what does that mean? Because you come in here with a brother, you're going walking to the masjid. Because y'all walking to the masjid together, to the salah, doesn't mean y'all have to pray next to each other. Right? One of you might pray in front of the other one. And there's more reward in where? The front or the back? The front. The most reward in the salah, praying in jama'ah, is closer to the imam. The closer to the imam, the more reward. And then the further the reward lessens as we go back, as we go away from the imam. And this is the closest, is the best for who? For all of the Muslims? Being close to the imam is the best for who? For the men. For the men, not for the women. The best rank for the men is the first rank, and the best rank for the women is the last rank, to be furthest away from the men as possible. And there's nothing wrong with that, as this, and if we're being real, we come to worship. We come to worship. We human beings. So men and women are fitting for one another. Right? Men look at women, women look at men. It's a time for worship. It's not time to be looking at anything. It's time to be focused and trying to pray and get our sins forgiven. So the women should be further away from the men as possible. Right? In order that no one is distracted, as the Prophet ﷺ said, the khayr as-saf lirijal as-saf al-awwal, or kama qala alayhi salatu wasalam, that the best row for the men is the first row, and the best row for the women is the last row. Inshallah. طيب. ويسن قربه أي الصف من الإمام. And it's also recommended that the saf itself, the line itself, is close to the imam. The line should be close to the imam. Also. طيب. And he doesn't mention here, but it's mentioned in some of the longer explanations, that also the first row to the right of the imam is the best side. The first rank and to the right of the imam is the best. After the right of the imam, the first row itself is the best row. But if you can get in the first row, to the right of the imam, this is the best. And then the second, going on back. قال رحمه الله ويقول الله أكبر. Every person that wants to make the salah has to say, in order to start the salah does not start if a person doesn't say Allahu Akbar. If they say anything other than that, la tanaqid. If it says anything other than that, la tasad. That the salah can't be started with a person saying one of Allah's names. Right? Allah has other names besides, or descriptions. For example, a person may say, as they say, Allahu al-Jaleel, or Allahu al-Akbar. Not Allahu al-Akbar, Allahu Akbar. This starts the salah. Clear? Allahu Akbar. And it doesn't count, brothers and sisters, it doesn't count if you say it, as he says, فَلَا تَنْعَقِدْ إِلَّا بِهَا نُطْقًا. It doesn't count unless you say it. You have to move your mouth. Clear? Meaning you can't come to the rank, line up. The brothers do it a lot. I don't know about sisters. Come into the rank and line up and do this. Never move your mouth. You with me? Clear? Note. That has to. It doesn't mean that everybody in the rank has to scream out Allahu Akbar. It doesn't mean that, right? Because in reality, we don't do that when we're praying alone. If you're at work or wherever you're at, you pray alone, you don't scream out Allahu Akbar, right? You raise your hands, Allahu Akbar. That every person can hear themselves. It says that لا تنعقد إلا بها نطقا, that it doesn't start the salah. The salah never starts until the person actually pronounces the takbir. لحديث تحريمها التكبير. But the Prophet ﷺ said, the tahrim of the salah, what starts the salah is the takbir. The takbir, brothers, is the statement, Allahu Akbar. This is the takbir. The takbir is not necessarily, we'll leave it like that. The takbir is the statement, Allahu Akbar. طيب. The takbir is the Allahu Akbar. طيب. He says, so the person says, Allahu Akbar qa'iman, while standing. That we stand up and we say, Allahu Akbar rafi'an yadayhi ila hadwi mankibayhi madmumata al-asabi' wa mamduda. Now he describes the raising of the hands. Number one, he says, saying the takbir Allahu Akbar, standing up, fil fard ma'al qudra. If it's an obligatory prayer, the 5 prayers, and a person can stand, you're able to stand up, it's obligatory to stand. There's no option in the 5 prayers, or if I'm a stand or if I'm a sit. Not for the 5 prayers. Tayyib, that a person stands, and they do what? They make the takbir, Allahu Akbar. Now, when they're saying the takbir, that number one, they're standing. Number two, they're raising their hands, rafi yaday. As it says The raising of the hands, nadban. What if a person walked up and they didn't raise their hands for the takbir? They didn't raise their hands for the takbir, they just walked up to the line and said Allahu Akbar and started the salah. Is the salah correct? Huh? They walk up to the line, never raise their hands, walk into the ring and say Allahu Akbar. Huh? They're praying, they come late, right? While the imam is praying, they walk into the ring and they walk and they say Allahu Akbar. And they start praying.
And they get into the position that the rest of the salah is in?
Yes. Meaning they don't do this. Allahu Akbar. That's correct. The takbir, the obligation is on the statement. The takbir is the statement Allahu Akbar. That doesn't mean nothing. None of this means when you find out something is not an obligation that you don't do it. Don't get into a habit of thinking that, oh, that's not obligatory, so I don't really have to do it. Okay? We're talking about if anything happens, a person comes, you forget, you were rushing, you're trying to get to the salah, something happens, something distracted you right before you started praying, and a person forgets to raise their hands. Sunnah, raise the hands, how far? Now he describes the raising of the hands. He says, Hadwi mankibayhi. And this is something that we have to pay attention to. That the hands are supposed to be raised to either the height of the shoulders, or a little higher than that, to about the tip of the earlobe. Not like this, and not like this. A lot of brothers do this. Lord. Right? Or people do this. Lord. Right? Lord. Now, what affects the salat is the statement, Allahu Akbar. The sunnah is that the hands are raised to the shoulder, or a little higher, right, to the earlobe. Madmumat al-asabi', that the fingers are together, right, not like this, right. Mamduda, with the palm facing the qibla. The palm facing the qibla. Meaning, not like this. Not like this. Right? Flat. Flat as possible, with the palms facing the qibla. With the hands stretched out, with the fingers together. For the raising of the hands, that don't have nothing to do, that has nothing to do with the actual statement, Allahu Akbar. Because if you do all of this and don't say anything, then you never started the salah. Right? What starts the salah? The takbir al-ihram. The takbir al-ihram. That first takbir makes things that used to be permissible, we used to be able to do them, now we can't do them anymore while we're praying. Okay? You with me? So, before the salah, any salah in general, we eating and drinking. We're talking to family members. Right? We're doing whatever we're doing. Once we make the takbir al-ihram, we're not talking to people anymore. Right? We're not eating and drinking. طيب, the takbir al-ihram, it makes things that were previously halal, haram, that you can't do it at that time. طيب, Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا قام إلى الصلاة رفع يديه حتى يكون هذو منكبيه ثم يكبر. متفق عليه. A hadith in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim that Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, if the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam would stand to pray, he would raise his hands until they reached the height of his shoulders. And the other hadith are not mentioned with the description here. طيب. He says, وَيُسْمِعُهُ إِمَامٌ مَنْ خَلْفَهُ كَتَسْمِيعٍ وَتَسْلِيمَةٍ أُولَى وَقِرَاءَةٍ في أولتي غير الظهرين. That the imam, whoever's leading the salah, whenever you're leading the salah, is that the imam, he makes sure that the people behind him can hear the takbir. No benefit if you got a bunch of people behind you, praying behind you, you're leading the salah, and when it's time to pray, you whisper the takbir. Nobody knows you started praying. So the people are behind you waiting for you to start praying because they didn't hear you. And if you didn't do the takbir, the raising of the hands properly, maybe they didn't see your hands raised, because a lot of brothers, they come in and do this. Right? Y'all seen that before? People come in, they do. Right? They serious, they ain't. Sunnah is that it comes up to the shoulder. People will come in, they'll raise it like this with the palms facing the floor. Right? They'll do this. They'll do this. And if the people don't see you and you're not loud enough, then the people praying behind you, you at work, wherever you at. You're at the mosque, a bunch of Muslims gonna pray together. Somebody gotta pray. We men. Huh? The men lead the salah. The women don't lead the salah, brothers. Eventually, brothers gotta man up and lead the salah. Whatever the situation may be, you might be in a situation where you have to lead other Muslims in prayer. If that's the case, you have to be loud enough. Outside of the stuff, we loud. Come to salah, don't whisper. The people got to be able to hear you. That they can hear you, Allahu Akbar. The people behind you, so that they can make sure, especially when the sisters can't see us. Sisters will complain and say, who's leading the salah? We couldn't hear him. They say, what? We couldn't hear. The brother that was leading the salah, we couldn't hear the takbir. So a bunch of sisters, they get confused, and they go to ruku', and the imam is in sajda. So they end up, a lot of times they start praying all over because the imam wasn't loud enough. Tayyib. And we're going to stop after this to the imam, whoever's leading the salah, make sure the people behind them can hear him, just as he would when he says for the imam that he should be loud enough when he says, Sami Allahu liman hamida. When he comes after out of ruku', he should be loud enough, especially us and the brothers in the front rank is one thing, but sometimes the rank is so far back they can't see. If the imam is not loud enough, don't break it to the muezzin calls their name, y'all. Don't play with the app from apps. Put it on the back of the muezzin. If the muezzin's going to call your name, wait for the muezzin, it's safer. Tayyib. And just in the taslima, that the imam, when he says Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa he needs to say it loud enough so that the people can hear him. So that the people can hear him. And just like in the salah, when the imam is reading in Maghrib, and he's reading in Isha, and he's reading the Salat al-Fajr, that he should be loud enough so that the people can hear him, so that they can follow behind the imam, so that they don't get lost. Especially when the sisters are in this place like they are and they can't see us. The imam is not loud enough, so then the sisters are lost because he's not loud enough and they can't hear. And the one that's praying alone should be praying loud enough so that the people, the one praying alone should be praying loud enough so that you can hear yourself. And we'll stop there. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.